This is a landscape of an ocean in perspective. Today we're going to look at some of the proportions of the items in our drawing. The items that are closest to us should be the largest in scale in our drawing, and the items further away appear smaller. We're also mapping out values and defining values as we try to create shades with our drawing from very dark areas to light areas. We've learned about atmospheric perspective, that things that are furthest away from us may appear lighter, or their details are blurred or not as well defined as those items that are closest to us, and overlapping items in our artwork. We'll work on those today in our perspective Seascape. Let's study the subject we're about to draw. Pretend it's an actual scene. Look for the lines, the curved lines, wavy lines. We're going to overlap some of the elements in our drawing so that we have a foreground, the area that's closest towards us, a middle ground, these mountainous islands, and a background, this mountain ridge. Of course, we have the haze, the atmosphere, the sunshine, all of these elements mixing in. Let's begin sketching. We're using SketchBook Express. Please repeat the name of the SketchBook Express application icons after me. Gallery. Add new sketch. I for information. Undo arrow. Redo arrow. Brush editor. Draw styles. Free draw. Line tool. Rectangle tool and circle tool. Symmetry. Text. Transform, layers. Today we're going to draw with one of the pencil tools. I've selected pencil tool number 3 with a fairly small radius and a medium opacity, about 50% opacity, and I'm drawing with the rhombus selector on black. First thing I'm going to do is reduce the size of my canvas, and using free draw I'm going to begin drawing the horizon line. Just sketching across a pencil line about a third away up my screen, like the one in the picture. We're sketching like we're using an actual pencil in this exercise. We're also going to use free draw to create a curved line on the left-hand side of our illustration to represent the palm tree. You just have to practice getting these lines the way you like them. We're going to do our wavy line to represent the mountain range in the distance. And this doesn't even have to go all the way across because we're about to add a couple of mountains in front of it. 3 lines so far, that's what we have. Now these mountains in the background, they can appear smaller than the section of the island on the right. We're trying to use perspective and create a visual illusion that these objects that are smaller are further away from us than the ones that are larger. These should be closer to us. And pay attention to the positive spaces where there are islands and land, and the negative spaces where we have the blank sky. Let's add in those islands in the front. This is our middle ground. You can adjust your drawing as much as you like. Use the eraser tool if you need to. I'm going to go ahead and clean that up. That's coming later, but let's begin using a value scale. As you can see in the illustration, our values can move from very light, as we see in illustration 1, to very dark, as we see in illustration 7, with the same stroke. And that stroke is called hatching. It's a series of diagonal lines where that layer is darkened in a pattern. We're going to use those hatching strokes to continue to shade in our drawing. Let's begin with the lightest value. About 1/10. Let's turn our opacity back up and add in the island that's in the foreground. Now, if we were drawing with an actual pencil, we could use the idea of hatching to create pressure and change the darkness of our stroke. Instead, we'll use the opacity features in SketchBook Express. I've turned our opacity very high, all the way up to about 90%, and we have the color selector on a dark gray. And we're going to continue those strokes. In fact, let's increase the radius of our pencil up to about 3.5. Well, let's round it up to 3. It doesn't have to be exact. Let's change our opacity again and add some shading into the ocean, continuing with horizontal lines. And then we have a very fine dark hatching. Let's increase our opacity and our radius and add the hatching to the islands. They're in the background of the picture. Let's add some shading on our island. We'll pull down the rhombus and make our stroke darker, decrease our radius and our opacity. Each of these sets of diagonal strokes are going at a slightly different angle as well. That helps create contrast. And we're continuing to change our opacity and the radius of our stroke to show some different ways of shading. Again, we're looking for a feel similar to drawing with an actual pencil. And we're going to create a shadow reflection in front of this island. Again, let's change our opacity. We'll turn it down some. And we're going to continue with the vertical lines that show us the height of the mountain, but the stroke is the horizontal line that's reflected on the water. I'm not going to shade my shadows quite as dark as the ones we have on the illustration. Let's add the layer of dark values to the land that's in the foreground. We'll increase our opacity. We'll even add some grass to this little island. Let's increase our radius and our opacity again to give us a little more contrast. And these are small vertical strokes of hatching. At this point, we need to begin to sketch in the tree. We'll just continue with those curved lines reduce our opacity and our radius as we create the branches. We need a bit more radius. So there's our tree. Our trees probably don't look exactly alike. That's okay. Let's add the leaves to it. The palm fronds. We'll change our opacity and our radius and add a little definition.